I went to school in Hawaii, went to college in Hawaii. I graduated and I convinced a total babe to marry me, and we moved to Key West. I became an underwater treasure hunter. I worked for a guy named Mel Fisher, and it was just a phenomenal time. A wreck called the Atocha. Hundreds of millions of dollars of gold and silver on this wreck, and I was just living the life. And then my wife and I decided that we needed to, we were going to start a family. And all of a sudden one day I woke up and there were 3 little boys in my house. My firstborn was like the ultimate model firstborn, following the rules. You know, he's just a great kid, just precocious as can be. He never even talked like a little kid. You know how they, their R's and everything. He just always talked like an adult. He never had any problems. He excelled in everything, sports, academics, socially. He could just have a conversation with an adult. But my second kid, which is this guy right here, this is Tyler. And Tyler was nothing like his older brother. He was polar opposite. And we noticed that the older he got, the more quirky things he did. You know, he had all these sensory issues, and when there were loud noises, he'd freak out. And we were kind of like, hey, should we go out here? We got here, let's go to the park. Let's go to this event. And it was, my wife and I were like, I just don't have the energy for Tyler tonight. And my wife said, there's something wrong with him, something wrong with him, and I was like, hey, there's nothing wrong with him. He's fine, he's fine. And sure enough, my wife started taking him to doctors, and we just ran the gauntlet of doctors. You know, it was a difficult time trying to figure out how we can help this kid and what our life is going to be, because it was obvious that this whole autism thing, it looked difficult. March Madness. So everyone's talking about the Cinderella story. We're going to fill out our brackets and we're going to talk about the Cinderella story. And North Carolina State in 1983, they had a team, and basically they had no chance of making it into the big dance, the big NCAA tournament. They have a coach, his name is Jim Valvano, Coach V. Nothing has ever been accomplished in any walk of life without enthusiasm, without motivation, without perseverance. He preaches this to these kids, right? They're going against Wake Forest, they squeak it out and they beat them by a point. And then, there's no Michael Jordan on this team. In fact, Michael Jordan is on the next team that they're playing. And they're the defending national champions. They won the entire thing the year before. There's no way they're going to beat these guys. And sure enough, they beat them. And now they got to go play against these guys. The guy from North Carolina State shoots a prayer from way, way out, and it's an air ball, but the guy grabs it and stuffs it at the buzzer. And they win. It's just the most unbelievable. It's the Cinderella story. Nothing has ever been accomplished in any walk of life without enthusiasm, without motivation, and without perseverance. So what was I trying to accomplish? Well, all I wanted was a healthy family. All I wanted to do was be happy. All I wanted was for my wife and my kids to be. I just wanted to be a normal family in the suburbs. That's all I wanted. But it was like we had a different path. Gone were the days of living in Key West and enjoying life like we were. And my goal was to enjoy life as much as possible. And so I got the motivation, and I became enthusiastic, and I developed perseverance, and I figured I got to change. We've got to change. If I don't change, I'm going to ruin everything. I needed to create memories. I needed to make things fun around the house for my wife and for my kid. I needed to figure out this IEP thing. I needed to figure out Mama Bear. When my kid is threatened in any way, my wife goes into Mama Bear mode. And I needed to figure out how to deal with that, right? So there's so many things. Getting my butt kicked. I get my butt kicked at home, then I get my butt kicked at work, and everywhere I go, I get my butt kicked. And it's like, how much more can I take of this? How many times can I keep coming back? Just like Rocky Balboa, he says, it's not how hard you hit, it's how many times you get hit and you keep coming back and you keep coming back. So I had to figure out, priorities. What am I going to do for me? What about the teacher? How am I going to find the best teacher? Antecedents. Oh man, we went to all these classes. I learned about antecedents. You guys know about antecedents? What's going to happen what sets my kid off? What is the one thing that happens before my kid has a meltdown? Or me, what sets me off? Or what sets my wife off? I can change all these things that happen before the bad behavior. All those lessons that I was learning, I was writing them down. And so I published this book, and it took me 7 years. Have you guys seen this movie? Yeah. Okay, so very good movie. And when I had special needs kids, all of a sudden this movie took meaning in my life. And I'll tell you why. It's a story about this guy who's going to write his symphony, his opus. And in the middle of this movie, he has several problems. One is he has a special needs kid. And at the end of the movie, first of all, he turns his life around. He realizes he was just, a jerk at home. He learns sign language. He embraces his deaf son finally. And there is the symphony that he wrote. They force him up there and he performs this symphony. But in the very end, you realize that wasn't his opus. His opus was all these tiles, all these little pictures of all the people that he touched in his life. And so I often think about, in the special needs community, what does your mosaic look like? The Ark is unbelievable. The very first special needs event that I ever came to was 3 years ago when we had Eli, and it was a Down Syndrome Day party right here. First event I ever went to. And now there's all these changes and all these wonderful things going on. And this is something bigger than ourselves. Now I realize, this is my family, by the way. I would like to announce that we finally got a decent picture. So we probably are going to have Christmas cards. Although this guy in the middle, yeah. So this is my oldest. He's a sophomore in high school, and then this is my Tyler, and he is he's unbelievable. He's full inclusion, 7th grader with an aide, and he's had an aide and been full inclusion for last 4 or 5 years. He's doing fantastic. And my other boy's doing great too. And this guy's just unbelievable. And life is really sweet. And my wife wanted to be here tonight, but he's got volleyball, he's got baseball, and he's got scouts, and the other two are kind of, so we're just we're busy. Everybody's busy. But so here's my challenge. When I speak here today, I look around the room, and I'm preaching to the choir, right? Because everybody here is involved. Everybody here is involved in the special needs community. The hard part is finding those families, that single mom, that single dad who is struggling. All of those families out there and there's tens of thousands of them, and they never get involved in anything, and they just need a hand to reach out to them sometimes, a little help, maybe babysit one time, or provide some kind of service. And so that's my message, and that's my challenge to all of us, is that, reach out and do the good, because in Mr. Holland's opus, at the very end, you realize that's what made that guy whole. That's what made him happy. And the more you bless people's lives, the happier you are. And that's all I got to say about that. All right, big round of applause.